Have you heard the email news? Starting in February 2024, Google and Yahoo are going to require us to start abiding by a new set of email rules. This is going to apply to anyone who sends over 5,000 emails. However, if you send less than that, I think these are really great best practices to start doing now. So for the day that you ultimately do send to more, or if the regulations ever change to be less, you're prepared. It is now going to be required that you authenticate your domain using security protocols like DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. What do these mean? Well, I'm going to explain it all to you inside today's interview with my good friend Israa. A lot of rumors and incorrect information has been floating around, and I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So I invited my friend who is a deliverability expert to come in and break it all down for us once and for all. We're excited to walk you through what these changes mean and how to implement them into your email strategy so that way you are set up for success. I think you're going to love this nerd email chat. Let's dive in. You got mail. Hey, I'm here today with Israa, and she is from the Winbox. We are going to be talking about all the new updates you need to know about Gmail and Yahoo sender requirements in email. Israa, welcome, and would you mind telling us a little bit about you and a little bit about your email expertise?
Of course. Hi, Shannon. It's been a minute. Hi, guys. I'm Israa. I'm the founder, the owner, CEO of the Winbox. The Winbox is an educational platform, but we also have a service side to it where we do full email management, automation, deliverability for D2C businesses. We focus mainly on D2C and helping them, win in the inbox. And my background, I guess I should say what my background is. I'm an email marketing deliverability expert and an email marketing growth marketer. Most of my clients come to me when they are in their growing pain stage, and we kind of set up their systems, their funnels. We don't just use email as email. It becomes like a whole ecosystem where we drive traffic to, nurture to actual conversion. So it's a little bit of different play, I guess, than just like, let's send out an email. So because of that, we have a deliverability aspect. That's why I'm a deliverability expert for e-commerce, because there's very few out there for e-commerce. So a little background on myself, I used to own my own e-com store. That's how I became a deliverability expert, because I couldn't find one that could help me out. So I've had about almost 8 years experience in the field. And so I do email marketing and deliverability. We kind of like marry the two to create like a synergistic effect for businesses to grow rapidly within their first year working with us. So that's a little bit of background on me.
Isra's a badass that helps companies make tons of money. It's pretty impressive, actually, some of the companies you've worked with and what you've done for them. And I love that you're like, I found this because I needed somebody to do this for me. That's how I fell into email as well, is I did not have anyone teaching what I needed to learn. So I learned it, and now I teach people.
Yeah, and I mean, we discussed this before. Like I said, email marketing is a huge umbrella, and there's different little pockets inside of that umbrella, and e-commerce is one of them. We have like cold outreach and affiliate marketing and B2B. So there's a lot out there. There's small business, big businesses. So yeah, the e-commerce space, I don't want to say there's no deliverability information out there, but there was nothing that really directly affected like e-commerce. And that's really like when I kind of use my e-commerce experience and my store to play around and test and like develop a system for e-commerce businesses. So
I love that. And also, I know you mentioned D2C earlier, just in case we have anyone who doesn't know, that's direct to consumer, just in case anybody was like, what is D2C? They're over there Googling. So now you don't have to go Google. We'll just tell you. So in case you either haven't heard or you know what is happening, there are some new requirements of email and it affects deliverability. And so do you want to tell us a little bit about these like new requirements and kind of how that's going to affect companies and emails?
I would be more than happy to, because for the past 6 years, I've been screaming into, I say, a void of telling people to do this, but now, thankfully, Gmail and Yahoo decided to take it off my plate and make it a requirement. Just a little background. The Google and Yahoo Sender requirements are coming into effect, are nothing new. They are best practices. Unfortunately, in the US, there's no implementation. There's no set regulations that you have to follow. But if you're sending to people in Europe, there's GDPR. It's applicable by law. You have to follow it. So in the US, most people are just it's best practices. Do we have to do it? Not really. But now Gmail and Yahoo basically said, hey, here are the 4 things that you need to put in place if you want to enter our inbox, or if you want your mail delivered to your subscribers that use our mail service providers, Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, all of them. But we're focusing on Gmail and Yahoo. And the reason this is important, if you are a bulk sender, so if you send more than 5,000 emails per send, so every campaign you send out, this applies to you directly. If you send less than that, some of it applies, but not all of it. However, it is best practice to build up to it, because eventually I believe that Google and Yahoo are going to move in a direction where it's going to become applicable to everybody. So very simple things to follow. There's just 4 steps. The first one is probably the most, daunting one that everybody gets stuck on. But other than that, it's literally just following best practices of how to treat your subscribers, and as they give you their email and expect something out of you as a service. So yeah, it's nothing new, but now it's you have to comply if you want. And I wanted to mention that if you are in the e-commerce space, 70% of your email makeup is probably from Google and Yahoo. So if you don't comply, you're really risking 70% of your revenue stream coming from there. And as February 1st approaches, and if you're a bulk sender, the 5,000 bulk sender, it's going to come in effect right away for most of these requirements. So we'll talk about the ones that are a little bit delayed, but the other ones are.
I think it's also kind of important too that this is actually a good thing, right? I think a lot of people are kind of scared of it, and it's this is actually meant to stop spam, and stop people from getting blasted with crazy emails, and especially using a Gmail account to send those.
Right.
Because I imagine that's harder for backend to track where that's coming from, and that's why they want people to have a domain if they're a reputable business sending emails.
Yeah, and I mean, following these recommendations, they build a very solid domain reputation for you. I mean, if you do well the first year of just following rules, so I'll give you an example. We have people that come to us and we set up their records, we do best practices for a good year, and then we might go our separate ways, and they hire somebody else who has no idea in deliverability. But because we've built such a strong infrastructure for them, and their domain reputation is so high with the mail service providers like Gmail and Yahoo, they give them grace, basically. So you built such a good reputation doing this that Gmail and Yahoo are we know these guys. However, that does not make you immune to going downhill if you keep up with the bad practices. But yeah, it really, it's best for you and best for your subscribers too, because I mean, if I think it's 90% of mail that gets sent out every day does not make it to the inbox. So if your email is making it to the inbox, you're in that top 10% or something like that. I'm pretty sure it's in that high percentage there, but it's just because there's so much spam that goes out every day, and Gmail and Yahoo are not going to risk their reputation for you. So either comply or get out, basically. So
Exactly. So I know you mentioned that there's some steps, and we're going to walk people through how, kind of just a steps overview of how to do this and why it's important we do it. Obviously, we actually kind of touched on why, but we're going to go in a little bit more into what all these records are that you need to set up. And do you want to tell us a little bit too? So essentially what you're going to be doing, I'll let Israa kind of tell us more because she's more the expert than me on this tech stuff, but you're going to be setting, what I like to break it down is essentially you just need to connect your domain to your email service provider is really the basics of what we're doing. So you have to go into your DNS settings to add a code to connect them, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
Perfect.
So So I'll name the 4 steps and we'll just like knock them out. So there's 4 steps to the sender requirement. If you go to Google and Yahoo, it only shows 3, but there's a 4th step in there nestled. So we'll talk about that as well. The first step is setting a dedicated or a private, like your actual sender domain. So instead of if you're on Flodesk and if you don't have a dedicated domain set up, when you send emails and you look at the header, when the email comes through, it's going to say this email was sent on behalf of this person from Flodesk. It will show the Flodesk thing. When you set up a dedicated domain and you send out an email, it's going to say, this email was sent from MsVondi.com.
Okay.
So it switches it now. And the reason that's a good thing is because you don't want to build Flodesk's reputation. What you're doing when you don't set up a dedicated domain is you're building your ESP, which is your email service provider, like MailChimp, Flodesk, Klaviyo. You're building their reputation. So like all your good practices are going to waste for your domain, and you're just giving it out to these ESPs. And why would you want to do that? Especially if you like switch and you've never set up a dedicated domain, you go to another ESP, your domain has no record. So it's like you're starting all over again. So setting up a dedicated domain. And this is important
for deliverability because that's how they rank you for where you're going to be in the inbox, in spam, in the promotions tab. Like that's how it's I like to explain it kind of like SEO, that like you build up your reputation as you send. So that way you have a better sender reputation.
Exactly. So yeah. So like putting that dedicated domain and then using best practices is going to come back and help your dedicated domain become reputable. That's how you want to look at it. That's why you want a dedicated domain in the first place. And then the second step of that first part is setting up your authentication records. There's SPF, which is Sender Framework Policy, I believe. Yes. Sorry. Sender Policy Framework. They have DKIM, which is Domain Key Identified Mail. And then you have DMARC. It's a protocol. It's Domain Message Authentication Reporting and Conformance. It's a long one. So those are 3. I'll go through those in a minute. So that's the first step, setting up your dedicated domain and setting up your 3 records. And we'll talk about that. The second step is if you set up your dedicated domain and your records, you need to create a from email that matches the domain. And we'll talk about who needs to do and who can use a private email. So like Gmail basically saying if your from email does not align with their records, you have a chance of being flagged as spam. So like if your from email is like mrsvondi@gmail.com instead of like hello@mrsvondi.com, there's a chance that they might flag that. And the reason is because a lot of spammers and spoofers use private emails. And so that's kind of like where like there could be like an iffiness. But all of that to say, they don't just look at your from email. They're going to look at your entire system first too. They're not going to be like, oh, she has a private from email, automatic to spam. That doesn't happen like that. So that's the second part. The third part is having a one-click unsubscribe in your email. And the fourth one is having a spam complaint rate under 0.3%. So that's like, I believe that's 3 out of 1,000. So those are the 4 requirements they're asking, again, bulk senders to put in place effectively. Again, if you're under 5,000, we're going to have a little bit of tweaking there for you. Yeah. Yeah. So like, don't panic if you're under that. We'll talk about how you can implement it and also grow to that point. So yeah. Yep. Those are the 4 that are asking for.
Perfect. So how do we go about like getting these put into our back systems? So I know that that's a loaded question because there's so many different systems and it's kind of complicated, but maybe we can kind of just explain how someone could find where to like put their DNS information in. Regardless, I'll let you explain that per se, but I have an idea too if you need me to go on about it. But yeah, I'm thinking like where they can find their DNS and then where they might find their records to put those into the DNS backend.
Okay. I'd like to go through the actual records first so they know what they are. And then we'll talk about where you find them. Let's go through the 3 records. So you have SPF, which is your Sender Policy Framework. And what that record basically what that record does for you is you are telling Gmail and Yahoo which servers, IP servers, are allowed to send on behalf of you, on behalf of your domain. So like if you are using Flodesk, your SPF is going to be set to tell Google and Gmail you can accept mail from Flodesk on behalf of my domain. So mrsbondi.com is using Flodesk. Gmail gets that record. Well, it'll get that email, and then it'll say, okay, there's a record in here. Let's see if it matches. If it matches, you're good to go. They put you in the inbox or the promotion box. If it doesn't match, there could be a soft fail or a fail. It's one of the weakest policies. So like even if they fail, you might enter the inbox. It's not as like strong. However, you want to get that fixed because over time it will send you to the spam. So that's what the sender policy framework is, the SPF. It's this most simplest, most lenient record you put in.
And one thing on that too, before we go on, is I know that has been one that's been really tricky to get to connect specifically in Flodesk. So if you're struggling to get that connected, don't panic. One, I have a feeling maybe even by the time this is out that they will have fixed this. I think it's a Flodesk glitch. But as Israa is saying, it is the least strong. I forget how you said it was perfect, but it's your lenient. Emails will still, yes, there's lenience there. Your emails will still send. You don't need to panic, especially if you're sending under 5,000. You don't need to quite panic yet. But if you're still struggling, we'll help you figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, again, when we looked at your records, Shannon, the SPF was still passing. It's passing under Flodesk. So there's kind of like a fallback on that. The issue comes in place is when all the records are messy. And then you can have an issue there. So the SPF is very lenient. It's not going to send you automatically to spam, but you do need to have it. Make sure you know who you're including in basically like safe listing or whitelisting to allow to send on your behalf. So like if I have Gmail or Google Workspace and Klaviyo sending on my behalf of my domain, both of those would be records in my SPF records in my DNS, in my host site wherever you purchase your domain. So that's the SPF part. Then there's DKIM, which is, I want to make sure I hit all 4 points. DKIM is the domain key identified mail. So it's actually a signature. It's a key. It's a private key that's assigned to you. That it's basically, let's call it the gatekeeper. And what it does is, when you send out an email on its way to the inbox, the domain key, what it does, it kind of like stops it and makes sure that nothing has changed. Like that's how spammers work. They basically if you don't have a DKIM in place, and DKIM is one of the more important ones. If you don't have a DKIM in place, spammers can alter your email on its way to the inbox. And I have a funny story. I have to tell you this funny story. It happened to actually my husband's work. His first week at the job, and he works at a college. He's in charge of a huge budget, and the guy that he was working with got an email, and they were basically trying to pay. They were trying to pay. I don't know, pay somebody to I think for like a building or something, and it was an $800,000 project. So his colleague did not look at the routing number, did not double check. So the email was sent and it said, oh, change of plans. Here is the different account we want you to send it to. And it was the email wasn't even from the college anymore. The guy didn't check any of that. And they literally sent $800,000 to some guy in probably Russia or Ukraine or wherever it was in Eastern Europe. Yeah, because it was like my husband, it was his first week of work there, and he was just like, what is this? Like, how can you be this incompetent? And I'm like, it happens. And this is where, like, I want to talk about DKIM, because this is what happens in DKIM. As they send the email, they intercept it and they alter the message inside, but it looks like it's from you. So it gets to the inbox, nobody notices, and stuff like that could happen. So
it goes to show you it's really going to protect you to have this set up, whereas when people are resistant to setting it up, it's like, no, this actually is you
Yeah.
won't lose $800,000 if you were sending $800,000.
Right. And I think like DKIM is probably like the most brushed over one, and it's very important because not only that, it helps protect you from your email being altered as it gets to the inbox. So it's like stops it from being spoofed or phished. And finally, what it does, and people don't really know this, it actually boosts your reputation. It helps build. It's one of the three records that actually helps really boost that reputation of yours. So getting the domain keys in, protecting your emails as they transition with a DKIM key. And typically, you either have one or three, or I think four DKIM records that you need to put in place from your email service providers. Just depends on who you're using. They provide you those records too. So like you're not making it up out of your head.
I think Flodesk has 3, and I have seen more in other providers.
Yeah. Yeah. So like typically there's more than one, but some of them, I think like the basic ones have one domain key. And then finally, DMARC. DMARC is again domain message authentication reporting and conformance. It's a protocol, and what it does, so like think of the records as like layers. So SPF lenient, DKIM mid, I want to say like mid-level security. And then DMARC is like the overall protector of it all. Like it like gives it that big bear hug to make sure like nobody's getting in. And so DMARC, what it does is when you send your email, DMARC is a protocol that takes your SPF and your DKIM and makes sure they match to what you have. So like whatever your header, your header that's going out from your email matches the records you have in your domain host, wherever you're hosting that, the DNS records there. If they don't match, you'll see a fail somewhere. And what DMARC does, right now what they're asking is like the bare minimum to set the policy at none, to not receive any emails. But what you can do is you actually can set up an email where you receive aggregated reports that tells you, hey, this email was sent, but here's where it failed, and here's what domain it was attached to. And I don't want to go into too much details for smaller businesses, because as I talked about DMARC is good to have there just to like, even if you have the policy as none, which means don't do anything, even if you see like suspicious activities, because it really is for businesses that have a lot of subdomains or have people sending on their behalf or have affiliates, or it's like a bigger web of like an email server. And most small businesses are literally only using one domain, one landing page, one website landing page. So they're not like giving out their domain to other people to send on their behalf. So all that to say, DMARC, it's going to ask you to set your P in there. Like when you go to look at the record, the P equals none, which means go ahead and monitor what's happening, but just don't do anything. You want to work up to like reject, but like, again, I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't want you to worry about it. This is not for small businesses. I'm here to tell you it's not.
What about if you're a business that's like a realtor and you're using like their email, like if you're like Coldwell Banker or something, right? And you're like your name, their domain, will this affect them?
Yes, but the thing is with that, they should have like the actual domain, like Caldwell should be the one setting all this up for them.
Perfect. That's what I was
like.
Thinking
You're not, if you have like a from email with like my name on it, I'm not in charge of setting up records. It is the business, the actual business, and I'm pretty sure Caldwell has
a big company will have that. Yeah, hopefully.
Let's hope they have a big security team that's taking care of all of that.
Perfect.
So yeah, not to worry there. As far as where you put these, you're going to they're called DNS records. They go into your host site. So like if you purchase your domain at like Namecheap or GoDaddy, that's where you're going to put them. If you purchase it at Squarespace, that's where they're going to go. Where do you find these records? They're going to be in your ESP. So contact your ESP or search it or look at your settings to find some type of deliverability tab somewhere inside of your ESP. That should walk you through which records you need to put in place. And it's really just like copy and paste. in there, and you hit verify. If it's correct, it's going to verify. If it's not correct, it's going to tell you it's not correct. It can
And
take up to, sorry, go ahead.
perfect. No, that's exactly what I was going to say, what you're saying.
It can take up to 48 hours. However, if you have the automatic setting on your inside your DNS, your host domain area, it should aggregate within minutes. If it doesn't update within like 24 or 48 hours, something's wrong. You set it up wrong, or something's wrong with like the connection between the two servers. So don't sit on it and be like, oh, well, just do it itself. No, it's not. It's something's wrong there.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, like I've noticed this happening a lot in Flodesk, that the SPF is taking a long time to update, and I'm hearing that it's updating for some people. Mine still hasn't at this moment in time. I'm hoping by, early next week it'll be ready, and if not, I'm going to contact them directly and talk to them. So I'd recommend, and I'm sure Israa would too, just contact your, email service provider and tell them like what's going on here, and they should be able to walk you through it. Their support should.
Yeah, and I mean, it shouldn't be complicated. They should give you the records. You should take those records, you put them in there, hit verify, and it should just automatically turn on. There's a way to read your header inside of, like, if you want to read and see if things are passing, you can go, like, send an email to yourself in Gmail and go to your Gmail and open that email up. And on the, what is this, right-hand side, the upper-hand side, the little three dot, the hamburger-looking thingies, if you click on it, there's a list that drops down, and there's a place that says Show Original Message. Click on that. When you do, it's going to send you to another tab with your header. And the header is right on top, and it'll say SPF pass, DKIM pass, DMARC pass, or fail. And it's going to show you what is it passing and failing for. So you have it right there. Yeah.
Perfect.
We can check.
Yeah, and there's some websites too, I think you can put your email into, and they run that for you. So maybe we can drop some of those for people too to like use as a resource if needed.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Perfect.
There's ones you can even analyze your entire header to see where everything is, like return path, all of that. So
yeah, and that header's pretty cool.
tools.
We don't have access to it in Flodesk, unfortunately, to mess with that, which is maybe good. I feel like some people would not know what to do with that. But if you're in like Klaviyo, or if you use, I think even MailerLite and MailChimp, you can edit that header somewhat, what we're talking about here. But if you use Flodesk and you're like, what header, what is this? Don't worry, you literally don't have access to it. So it's not something you can even
Yeah, when I talk about headers, it's not going to be inside of your ESP. It's going to be when you send an email to yourself, and then like you can look at it inside of your Gmail. Go look at the header there. You can't control that header because those are just the records and the system that you're using. But you can see, where is your email coming from? What's your from email? What's your records look like? All of that stuff is in there. So
perfect. Yeah. Awesome.
Just knowledge.
It's good to know.
Hopefully nobody's overwhelmed. It's again, get the records from your USB, put them in your DNS, hit verify.
It's literally all you have to do. All the stuff we're telling you is just really just knowledge and kind of nerd knowledge for us and or anyone else who's like into this stuff to learn.
I really want people to understand why these records are important. It's not just like plug it in so you can get it into the inbox. If you're going to email long term, and if you rely heavily on your email for revenue, this is the bread and butter of your entire business. Like if you don't have this in place, eventually you're just going to end up in spam, or you're not going to understand why you're in spam. So it's very important. And I've noticed people who have only SPF and DKIM set up and are landing in spam. Once we set up their DMARC record, even if it's at policy none, they automatically end up in inbox, because that added layer of protection tells them, okay, this is a legit sender. They're not just like messing around. Let's put them back in the inbox. So it does affect your entire system. So
yeah, no, I think it's really, really helpful to know all of this so you feel a little bit more educated when you go into everything. Love it. Awesome. Well, I do, if we feel like we've covered most of that, I do have a few questions that came in. I asked my audience for some questions if they had it, because I said I was like speaking with a deliverability expert. And so I have a few there. We're also going to have a free resource from Israa for you. The link will be down below that will walk you through all of this and how to do it. It's a really cute little guide of how to stay out of Gmail jail, which I love the title. So we're going to have that for you as well. You'll find that linked below in the notes or wherever on this page it is at this moment in time. But yeah, some questions I had was, we already talked about like if you don't own the domain, like if you're, emailing through a company and they should take care of that for you. Let me just make sure that we answered all of this. The agency owns the domain, so I don't have access. Is there anything I can do? Do I just have to rely on my agency? Which it sounds like they would rely on that agency. And then this one I think we answered too, but like how necessary is that DMARC? But I know I remember you saying something about like it isn't as necessary at first if you're a smaller business.
Okay, so yeah, that's another thing I want to talk about as part of the point to the second policy that's being implemented but not like explicitly talking about. So like if you have a private from email. So if you use a private from email, so like when you send out an email, your reply email is like whatever, shannon@gmail.com. If you are sending under 5,000, you can still use a private email. You're not going to get like penalized or thrown in spam right away for it. I don't think I'm monitoring and seeing what their like take on that as we go along. But right now it's not necessary for smaller businesses that have less than 5,000 sends per campaign. What I was going to say about that. If you have a private email, don't set up a DMARC just yet. And the reason is when you put that DMARC in place, it's going to start matching records together. And if your from email looks off compared to your records that are coming from your actual domain, it's going to look suspicious and they might put you in spam. And also, Gmail has come out and said the DMARC record doesn't apply just yet to businesses that are sending under 5,000. So the DMARC record is important. You should put it in place if you're comfortable and you have already a business email. I would definitely do it. It doesn't hurt you, especially when you have a policy to none. It's not doing anything. It's just helping you. It's helping you like double check your records basically at this point. It's not like rejecting or stopping any emails from going to Gmail. So if you're under 5,000 and you're using a private email, don't put in your DMARC record just yet. Once you switch to a business email and you're still under 5,000, you're more than welcome to do the DMARC. But once you hit the 5,000 and more, unless Gmail changes in the next year or two, you will need to change your address to a business address and you need to put in that DMARC record. So.
Okay, good to know. Yeah. I mean, I think obviously if you have your own domain, best practice is to just set it up. It's not going to hurt you per se.
And I wanted to touch on like a lot of people are asking you about their like they have an email from like as an agency, so they work for the agency. I want to make sure they understand these records only apply if you actually own the business yourself.
Okay.
Like if you're working for someone else, you have no control over that domain. You're just within the business. You're sending emails. Don't worry about it. They should worry about it though, whoever's employing you. So you can always bring it up to them. But unless you own the actual domains that you are sending from and you're building a business on, you don't have to work. You don't have to be doing any of this. So.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know. And that'll be helpful, I think, for people. Because, yeah, I know some platforms, it's slightly trickier to get that DMARC set up. Like I'm hearing Kartra is a little bit trickier to get set up. But I imagine if you are having trouble, I would reach out when you're trying to set that up. I would talk with Kartra. Like if you're having trouble directly with Kartra, talk to their support and they should be able to walk you through what's going on if you're still struggling with that. Another question I had was, do I need to verify my email in Honeybook and Gmail too, or is it doing just in Flodesk enough? And Honeybook, I imagine most people know, but that's like a CRM service that you can email through, and they do usually require that you connect them. Like mine right now isn't connecting for some reason. I have to go in and find the right files and get it going, but and for me, it's not as big of a deal at this moment in time, but that will happen at some point. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think about that.
Yeah. Any platform you are sending emails from, you have to have the records in place for SPF and DKIM. So HoneyBook should have those records if you are sending directly from their platform. I mean, even if you're using like Google Workspace, they have records they need to put in place inside of your DNS because they're sending emails on behalf of your domain. That's how you need to think about it. Just like we talked about SPF, the policy framework is you're whitelisting the IP servers that can send on your behalf. So anytime you sign up to, you need to start, and the thing is, it's a little tricky because you're not sending bulk email from them, right? But you do still need it in place, I believe, once you have the other records in from your bulk email. Right now, it's not like a necessary because I'm pretty sure. So when you sign up for an ESP, you're typically sending on their behalf. So like you're not really sending on your domain. You're just sending off of Flodesk or HoneyBook. What this is telling you is they want to see bulk email authenticated records because that's where the spam happens. Like if you're sending like 1 or 2 emails from HoneyBook like a day, that's nothing. Like that's not something they're going to be looking at. Like that may be probably like a more of a, what do you call it? Like a one-on-one interaction. Google will read that as that. Where if you're sending 5,000 or 10,000, so like some of my clients have 100,000. If I'm sending to 100,000 by hitting just send, I better have my records straight because I can screw that entire system up right away.
Absolutely.
So it matters. It matters the bulk send part because that's what they're really looking for. They're looking for, because that's what spammers do. They take they scrape emails off the internet and they intercept emails and they do this spoof and phishing on everybody's behalf. So what you're trying to do is really protect that bulk sending email part.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. And in good news, while we were discussing, my HoneyBook is set up correctly, so we're all good. They do walk you through it very, very simply. You literally just have to confirm your email address, and it goes, oh, okay, you're good to go. So if this feels scary to you, just go into your back end and look, because I promise you it's probably not as hard as you think it is. And like Israa said, if you're just sending a contract to a client, like a couple times a week or something like that, you're fine. But if you're maybe you're a small company, but you send 50 to 100 contracts, a day, you would probably want to make sure this is set up right. Just so for future, as you grow, you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot.
And also Gmail and Yahoo are looking at marketing emails heavily. So it's more of the marketing aspect. Like if you're sending marketing emails out, that's where they're going to kind of look at you, not sending out a contract or a transactional email. So
good to know. Okay, I think I just have one more question for you. Oh yes, this one was funny. Somebody asked me, is it typical for your domain, so when you're putting in the DNS settings or putting in your code into the DNS, is it typical for your domain host to give you a warning of you're about to change this info when you go in to update your records? It kind of made this person a little bit nervous that their website was going to just go down.
Most of them do, yes. They'll tell you, hey, you're about to come off of our system and go into your own system. And the reason they tell you that is because now the best practices fall on you and on your domain reputation. So they're not telling you, hey, you're going to stop using Flodesk. You're going to start using, at mrsvani.com. Are you sure? Because if you have a bad reputation, if your domain is bad, and before you set up records and you were landing in the inbox, it's probably because you were being carried by your shared IP. You're being carried, that reputation was carrying you through. But then you go off of Flodesk and you're on your own, on your domain, and your domain has a horrible reputation, you're probably going to end up in spam. I also want to mention, it's not always that you have a horrible reputation. If you have a new domain, a fresh new domain, you're most likely going to end up in Gmail spam a lot at the beginning as you build your reputation. And the reason is because, again, spammers, they buy domains. Your domain looks new, there's a fishy thing about it. Even when I had a client that came in and had a brand new domain, we set up all the records, everything was passing, still landed in spam. The only thing that we could, we came down to, I stripped the emails all the way down to nothing. And then like we figured out it's a new domain. It's a baby domain. It's been alive for 2 weeks. Nobody's going to trust it. So like new domains, if you have a brand new domain and you have you're not sending huge emails, and if you have a brand new domain, you shouldn't have a huge email list anyway. Stay on your ESP's
server
server for a while.
Yeah, record. Mm-hmm.
Like keep their records. Don't put your records just yet. Wait like a 3-month period and try to send like one email a week just to build that reputation. And then after that 3 months, you can like gauge like, okay, I'm ready. People are engaging. I can probably move them into my own records. So that's like a little trick that people forget about, especially if you're starting new or you have never emailed. So
that makes sense. I mean, to me, it does. It makes a lot of sense because I started with a Gmail when I first started my list because I didn't know where my business was going. So I just started with a Gmail. And then when I transferred it to the domain, I did see a tiny dip. I mean, it wasn't crazy or super significant, but I did see a little bit of a dip in my open rate at first while I was still building that reputation. And after maybe, I don't even think it was like 2 weeks or so. It wasn't even that long. It was back up to normal. Yeah. So don't panic if you switch from a Gmail to a domain. It may take a minute to re-get your, I can't even think of the way to say this, but essentially get people to know who you are, right? It's like if you move into a new neighborhood, people are going to be a little bit like, who's this new neighbor? Okay, hey, welcome. But they need a minute to kind of like get to know you, right? And so it's the same idea. Like once you get this set up, it just needs a minute for the little email bots to read your stuff and know who you are.
And a good way to build your reputation quickly, wherever you're capturing emails from, make sure you have a thank you message after they submit their email and letting them know to go to their inbox and send them that first email right away. And the reason is Gmail is going to say, so the first email your subscribers receive has the highest opens, highest click rates, highest conversions usually. So what you want to do, if you have a pop-up on your website or if you're collecting emails from social media, don't just ask for don't ask for the email and then give them the thing right away on their screen. I know it's like, oh, don't take them away from their screen and, conversions did, blah, blah. Who cares? If you have an email addresses are the only thing you own on the internet. That's all you own in your business. If your entire business collapses tomorrow, you need your email list. That's all you have. You don't own anything else. Which brings me to another point. Make sure you're downloading those email lists and putting them on a hard drive somewhere because things crash or you get kicked off an ESP. Had that happen a couple of times. But what the point is, when you ask for their emails and they submit, make sure you send them an email right away and have them go open that email and give some type of value, even if it's like a thank you message that like resonates with them. The reason is Gmail is going to look at that subscriber and say, okay, this is a new subscriber subscribing to this business. And they're going right away and opening that email. This business must be legit. And they basically give you like brownie points. So like, okay, cool. We're going to build your reputation a little. That automated email for your pop-ups or wherever you're collecting your forms or your sales pages where you're collecting emails, that follow-up email, the first follow-up email is so important. It will build your reputation so quickly and get you in the inbox, even if you haven't sent any campaigns over the past year. So
I love that you're saying that because I always preach that. Like I always preach, make people go to your email because I agree with you. One, it's great for your sender reputation, but it also gets people used to seeing your name in their inbox and they want to open your emails more because they're getting to know you and who you are. So it's like a win-win.
Exactly. It's a whole system. Like I work in the D2C, which is direct to consumer e-commerce, and I work, I don't know what your base is, but I'm guessing it's majority female. I work in the bro email marketing. And when I came in as an e-com business owner, it was always about take their email, give them their discount right there. They're going to convert. You're going to see huge. And it made sense for a while, but then I'm like, my quality of my email list was trash. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because people were putting fake emails in. Because I knew when I hit submit, they just got the code anyway, and they were done. They didn't need to get any more email. So I also built a quality list because it confirms that these people are giving you real emails.
That's a great point. I actually never thought of that. That's a great point.
I have a 4-step why automations are important. Like I have a whole like course on like why are automations important. But like these little things matter because that's the reason you're in the inbox in the first place, because you followed these steps. So don't ever let anyone tell you, just give it to them, stay on the website, they're going to convert. What's the point? Even if like 2 out of 10 convert, you lost 8 people. And most of them are, you're going to have a low open if you don't send them to the inbox to open first, because again, like, get used to seeing you, but then you can talk to them more. You can say more to them. Email is the cheapest way to talk to your audience directly and like really put that message out there and connect. And you have a longer time to nurture them. You know, we have people who buy after 3 years of being on our list. You know, who knows? So,
Exactly.
so yeah, automations are really great for just building your reputations. I know we went off a tangent, but it's important.
It's a great tangent.
So,
I love it.
yeah.
Awesome. You know what I actually thought of a question when we were talking about the DKIM, and you were saying how somebody might be able to intercept the email when it goes through. Is there a way like you could check that kind of thing as like a consumer? Let's say you got an email, like could you confirm it came from the right source?
You probably can tell by the email address that they use.
Mm.
I'm not too familiar. I haven't like dug deep into the consumer side and like how you can tell it's spam.
Yeah, I was
But
just curious.
it's most of the time they change. It's usually the elements inside of the email that don't make sense. So like most people who intercept are probably either asking you to send money or send personal information. And that's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. But then like a lot of times it's also the email that's changed, the from email. So the from email is usually like, holy crap, like that doesn't make any sense. I see that all the time. Like right now, there's a huge surge in FedEx and UPS. Have you
I
seen
get
those emails?
these. I get the
Yeah,
text that says,
yes.
"Oh, they can't deliver your pack," and I always just delete them because I know
Yep.
there's just
Yep.
junk, like phishing.
Yeah, exactly. So like those are like really good examples of like, hey, they intercepted and they're trying to act. But then like when you look at the actual header and like the from email and all that, it doesn't make any sense. Like why are you sending from? Why are you sending? If you're from FedEx, why are you sending from these type of emails, basically? So you can tell a little bit, but some people still fall for them. You know,
I mean, they're out there
the
doing
prince,
it. Yeah,
you know, the
I
prince
love
from
it.
Nigeria and all. You know,
The Prince from Nigeria. No, you cannot have my money, Prince from Nigeria. I love
no,
it.
he wants to send you $1 million.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He wants my money, or wants to send me money because he's rich. That's right. I forgot.
Yes.
I haven't been on a Prince Nigerian tour email in a while, so.
I'm always in the spam folder looking for things. So
Do you remember when we were
there's still
kids, our parents would totally fall for it, and we're like, "Mom, that's not real, Mom."
that, and we had the back in like 2010 to like 2014. There was the IRS scam. Did your parents ever get those? They would call older people and like threaten them if they don't pay right now, they're gonna like kick them out of the house. And it was like an Indian run business. It was like India. It was from India. People were calling and like threatening. Actually my mom's friend fell for one of them, and she ended up wiring like $4,000 through text. So like that. Like again, like when we talk about like these small businesses, you all are safe compared to what they're really targeting. But again, it's good to know. It's information for you, just to
Yeah.
keep, even in your personal life. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's what I keep telling people too. I'm like, if you're not spamming people, you're going to be okay. Because I know a lot of people have been kind of freaking out about this. Like, oh no, are my emails not going to get sent? Which is funny because half the time they tell me they're scared to send emails in general anyway. So I'm like, well, now you're worried about it? Like you weren't, last week you were worried to even send one. But the biggest thing is
yeah,
like, as long as you are not bulk spamming people, you're going to be okay. Like, and you're following the majority of the rules. Obviously, sometimes there are ones like, I mean, you probably aren't actually even breaking anything. There aren't really that many crazy rules, but as long as you
yeah,
are not being a spammer and you're not taking advantage of people, you'll be okay.
yep, yeah. And I mean, again, I always say if you're in the smaller businesses, you're really not in jeopardy unless you're like horrible, like trashing your list with like buy, buy, buy.
Yeah.
Me kind of thing. And at that point, it's not even like Gmail doesn't even care. Like you're burning your domain down, and once you lose that domain, you really can't get it back. So
Yeah.
it's really
So
just it comes down to that. It's like it's basically you're screwing yourself over. Nobody really cares outside of that, So you worked
basically
hard.
just don't be a dick when you send your emails, okay, guys? That's the main rule here we want to go
Pretty
with.
much. Pretty
Don't be
much.
a
Yeah.
marketing bro.
Just send it, bro. Send it.
I love it. Is there
Like,
anything else we want to? Obviously, we're going to drop this free resource for you in the
yeah.
notes below. But yeah, is there anything else we want to leave anyone with today?
I want to touch on the last two that we talked about real
Yeah.
quick. One click unsubscribe. So one click unsubscribe basically says they have to click on the email and unsubscribe. There's a huge heated debate right now. Is it do they click on it and they're automatically unsubscribed, or do they click on it and go to the next page and hit confirm? It's still murky. I have no idea which is which yet. I will get you that information when it comes out. But the consensus is even if you go to the next page, as long as you hit confirm, you're good. Like it counts as a one click unsubscribe. When you set up a dedicated domain, Gmail and Yahoo are going to put that big button on top next to your email when they open it. It's going to say unsubscribe for like that one click. That does not suffice for your compliance for email. You have to put an unsubscribe link inside of the email body. So make sure you keep that, unsubscribe link inside. Don't take that out just because you see that big button that they put in there. That big button is going to be put by your ESP. Check with them, see how that's going to be created, and Gmail. So it's like working together to get that in there. But then again, your unsubscribe link needs to go into your body. It is a compliance issue. You can get sued for it. Don't do that. It's also not going to go into effect till June because a lot of people are losing their shit over it. And Gmail was like, all right, we'll give you till June.
And
so
no, sorry, go ahead. I didn't want to cut you off.
I was just going to say, so like, don't like freak out about that either. Again, just make it simple, make it visible. Let people
Make it
get
visible. I was going to say that too. I hate when people try and hide the let people go. If they don't want to be on your list, let them go. It's okay.
Well, and also like one big issue I see a lot is people change the color of the footer. So they'll like make it black, but their link, when they put it on subscribe, it looks white because, you change the font color to white. But when it becomes a link, the link font is black too. Mm-hmm. And there goes your unsubscribe link. You can't see it. So make sure not just visible in the fact they can see it, it's visible in your design. If you're going to change the color, make sure it's still visible.
I know it drives me crazy. I'm like, just make it, don't hide it. It's okay. The other thing too, I know like Flodesk did not have that set up and they are working on it. So that's something that if you use Flodesk, you do not need to worry about going in and trying to do anything about it. That's on Flodesk. They have to fix that and set that up. And I think and also you cannot delete that unsubscribe button in Flodesk. I think in most other email providers you can't as well, but do just, verify those things. But again, if you're in Flodesk, you don't need to do anything. They are working on it. And I'm sure if you're in another email provider, they are also making that set up correctly.
I do want to make a note. If you do text-based emails, make sure, I don't know, but again, you said Flodesk doesn't take it out, but I know Klaviyo does. So like if you do text-based, make sure your unsubscribe button is still in there because they take it out for you, which is like, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let me get sued here. But like, again, this is a compliance issue. It's not. And if you don't have an unsubscribe, you're jeopardizing your domain again because people are going to hit spam.
Yeah.
So take them off your list and, don't get penalized or hide it and screw your domain over. So that's number 3. Don't worry about it till June. Just make sure it's implemented. And the last one is they're saying they want you to be under 0.3% spam compliance. That's nothing new. The canned spam regulation says you need to be under 0.1%. So like they're really giving you a big grace there to like spam get those spam rates down. So 0.3 is not like the best practice. We usually try to keep it under 0.08 actually. If we can get it lower, great. Gmail does not loop. So like I don't know about Flodesk. Does Flodesk have a deliverability? like a
They
deliverability dashboard?
it's not great. They have like a analytics, so you can kind of go in the back and look at some stuff, but not the way you can on other platforms.
Okay. Okay, so if you don't, you can use one of the platforms out there. I will get you the links for the Yahoo and the Google. So Google, even if your ESP has a deliverability dashboard for analytics, Google does not have a feedback loop to any ESPs. They don't share their feedback loops back to ESPs. So you have to set up Google Postmaster. So I believe it's like postmaster.google.com. You go in there, you add your domain. Guess what? You have to put another record into your DNS, verify it, and that information starts popping up. You'll see your reputation, your domain reputation. You'll see your spam complaints from Google. So like sometimes I have people like, oh, I sent, an email and I got 0 complaints. And then I go into their Google Postmaster and I look at their spam rate and it's like 3.2%. And I'm like, well, maybe you didn't spam. Nobody hit spam on your other mail inbox providers like Yahoo and AOL and Apple or whatever. But there's a high spike from Gmail. So you're doing something wrong with Gmail. The problem with Gmail, it's a little complicated and I don't want to go into it. But like removing people, the issue is with the feedback loop not going to the ESP, you don't know who to remove off your list. This is why you can't use static lists either. Like you should use segmented if you can to make sure you're moving old people off your list. And Gmail actually came out in December and said any inactive profile for the past 2 years, like if you are older than 2 years old, you have a private email with Gmail and you have not used it and it's inactive, they deleted it. So,
oh yeah, I heard about that.
If you have a 5-year-old list and you're sending to all those people and you're seeing a giant bounce rate, that's because you're not cleaning your list and Gmail deleted those emails. So it's Gmail is like, we're at the mercy of Gmail here. So it's a lot to understand, but Google Postmaster will help you understand your deliverability for Gmail users. And there's a Yahoo one as well, I believe. And I mean, if Flodesk doesn't have one, you can always use there's other dashboards out there that you can sign up to see your deliverability.
I just checked. Flodesk does not have one. Shocker.
Yeah. Again, I really wouldn't. If you can just sign up for Google Postmaster and monitor there, you should be able to tell the health rate of the rest of your list if you're under that 5,000. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to ask you, like Flodesk. Do people send bulk emails from Flodesk like over 5,000? Is it typically used for that kind of business?
It can be. I know people, there are some, just business owners that have over 10,000 people on their list. You know what I mean? So they are sending to quite a large, I actually just did a talk this week that she has a 11,000 person list or something. She keeps it pretty clean. So she does try and clean out what's not, being opened and things like that. But yeah, so there are quite a few people that do have relatively sizable lists on Flodesk.
Yeah, so if you do, then I would highly recommend, if you get to that point, get some type of deliverability platform to look at your deliverability.
If Flodesk doesn't there's not any kind of spam information at all in Flodesk right now. So
yeah,
do double check that.
Yeah, and if you hand over your email to like an agency, make sure that they know that they're monitoring some type of deliverability for you. So I want to mention that as well.
It's good advice.
Yeah, so those are the 4 talking points. They, they're lovely. Don't be scared, especially if you're not.
Okay. It'll all be okay.
I saw. It really is. There's nothing to fear. This is nothing new. This is just taking the load off of us deliverability experts who are in the field, been screaming at their clients for years to do it. It's taking the load off of us. It's like, and you're not going to find any ESP out there that wants to stay alive, not implement these regulations, because now it's Google and Yahoo saying, you're not getting in our inbox. So, and I wanted to mention that promotion and inbox are both inboxing. Don't you're not, if you end up in promotion, like you went from inbox to promotion, it's not because of any of this. It's because your emails are marketing. They've been marked as marketing emails. And that's okay, because that's where you belong.
Yay.
It's a reality. It's a reality. So.
Yay. Yeah, I know. That's a whole nother topic we'll have to go on, is the promotions tab sometime and how that gets confused for not being the inbox. But again, that's a whole nother conversation that we'll have another day.
Lots of bro businesses making millions off of that fear, so it's lovely.
Amen. Oh boy. Okay, I feel like we covered everything here. Did you have anything else you wanted to add in there at all, Israa, about?
I don't have anything.
Perfect.
I think we went in pretty in detail. I hope it's not confusing. If it is confusing for anybody, you can always go to thewinbox.com and reach out to us. We are more than happy. We are offering basically like we're waiving the fee for February to help people because I know we're going to have an influx of help me. I don't know what I'm doing. So if you set it up and you're like, I don't know what's going on, can you please just check that I did it right? We're more than happy to run our service. It's free during February just to help you make sure you are, in compliance, good to go. And so.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'll let my people know. I was going to say too, so you can find Israa at thewinbox.com, correct? And then you have an Instagram as well, right? Or where do you prefer to connect with people?
You can find us on Instagram. It's at _winbox.
Perfect. We'll put that link down below too.
Yeah. And you can find me on LinkedIn under my name. So those are the two places that we do Twitter as well. I'll give you the 3 links.
Okay, perfect. I'll link them so everybody can find you. I'll link everything. So whatever people use, they can come find you. I love it. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I think this has been super helpful. And also, if you do still have some questions or it's like you're watching this months later and it's not February, like just drop them down below, drop your questions. And I monitor. So if for some reason I see something and we can help you out, we'll point you in the right direction. Obviously, things may change too. So depending on when you're watching this, if things do, we will give you an update and we'll have an updated video or link or something for you to find. So just double check everything is up to date. And I also like to say too, if you're hearing weird advice, like there are some weird rumors going around with this whole thing. If it's not an email expert telling you this, don't listen to it or take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. If it's anything outside of what I just covered, it's a lie.
Yeah. Like I heard you can't use hello at your domain name. And I'm like, what planet would that make sense?
And I say this as part of like an actual Email Geeks deliverability team that do this for a living. There's nothing else outside of this.
Yeah.
Don't be like fear-mongered into like what she just said, using a hello or send or whatever it is. Yeah. And they probably got it confused by saying like, they're thinking like private emails versus business emails. But outside of what we just went through and outside of, I'm going to drop the Gmail jail as well, document for you to grab. Outside of what's covered in there, there is nothing that you need to implement outside of these 4 parts. And again, there's exceptions based on your business. So do what needs to be done based on what level you're at in your business. I love it.
That's super helpful. Awesome. Well, thank you, Israa, for being here and educating us on all these techie things. I hope everyone feels smarter now. You can go tell your, family what you know now. You can be like, guess what I learned about email, and nobody will care, but it's okay. You'll look smart. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Happy emailing.
Happy emailing.
You've got mail.